Becoming wealthy. Hello, everyone. Today, I will deeply explore wealth, one of modern people's greatest interests. For many who want to make money well but struggle realistically, I would like to share both academic perspectives and practical wisdom. We commonly think of people with a lot of money as rich. But what is the true meaning of wealth? Is it simply numbers accumulated in a bank account? Or is it something more? Through this session, we will deeply explore the true essence of wealth and how to achieve it. Chapter 1. Redefining the essence of wealth. In modern capitalist society, we constantly pursue more money. Interestingly, many people who eagerly chase money fail to achieve the wealth they desire. What are we missing? Wealth is not simply the accumulation of money. True wealth is the holistic result of thoughts, habits, responsibility, character, and strategy. Like the tip of an iceberg, the financial success we see stands on a massive foundation below the surface. Our thoughts about money, financial habits, level of responsibility, character maturity, and life strategies buried within us determine our financial state. This is why some become rich while others don't, even in the same environment, with the same opportunities. Adding a cynical perspective, we often attribute wealth to luck or innate talent. However, this is often just a way to shift responsibility externally. The statement, "I don't have luck," is usually an elegant transformation of the confession, "I haven't made enough of the necessary effort." Chapter 2. Psychological patterns of people who can't accumulate money. For people who struggle to accumulate money, there are several common psychological patterns. Understanding these patterns is the first step to improving your financial situation. Let's look at 4 main types. First, emotional type. A wallet enslaved by emotions. The biggest characteristic of emotional people is their consumption pattern driven by feelings. They spend to celebrate when they feel good and to comfort themselves when they feel bad. Eventually, consumption continues in any emotional state, becoming the biggest obstacle to asset accumulation. According to one study, emotion-based impulse purchases account for about 40% of the average consumer's annual expenditure. This is why many modern people leak money despite earning diligently. We all have this experience. The experience of buying expensive products thinking, "I need a gift for myself today," when under stress. Interestingly, the joy this gift brings is very temporary, but the financial burden lasts much longer. Quite an unfair trade, isn't it? Second, avoidance. Type. Fear of facing money. Avoidance types feel uncomfortable handling money itself. Even checking their bank balance is stressful, and they try to avoid conversations about financial planning or investments. This psychological avoidance often stems from childhood experiences or family environment. If parents often conflicted over money or experienced economic difficulties, money easily becomes a symbol of anxiety and stress. What avoidance types need most is a new relationship with money. There needs to be a shift in perception that money is not a source of stress, but a tool to achieve life goals. Avoiding money is like postponing a health checkup. It may avoid anxiety for now, but in the long run, it only causes bigger problems. The lack of money education in our society ironically demonstrates how important it is. Schools teach trigonometry, but not how to file taxes. Third, theoretical type. Abundant knowledge, but poor execution. Theoretical people read books about money, attend investment seminars, and keep up with economic news. But this doesn't lead to actual investment or financial management actions. What they lack is not knowledge, but execution. No matter how excellent an investment strategy you know, you can't earn returns if you don't actually invest. In academia, this is called the knowledge action gap. This is not simply a matter of laziness, but often stems from perfectionism or fear of failure. Knowledge is like a map. No matter how accurate a map you have, you can't reach your destination if you don't actually take steps. Sometimes, accumulating knowledge becomes an excuse to justify delaying action. "I'll start after studying more" is often just a sophisticated expression of "I will never start." Fourth, greedy type. Impatience chasing. Quick wealth. Greedy types aim for a big hit. They tend to rely on luck, such as short-term stock market surges, real estate speculation, or lottery wins. This psychology stems from perceiving money as something to find rather than earn. Like searching for treasure buried somewhere in the forest, they depend on luck and opportunity. However, in reality, sustainable wealth is mostly accumulated through steady effort, wise choices, and the compounding effect of time. Investments aiming for a big hit often lead to significant losses. Interestingly, gambling industries like lotteries and casinos precisely understand and utilize this human psychology. The message "you could be the next protagonist" becomes a powerful marketing tool. But statistically, investing in the lottery is only slightly better than burning money. Yet why do we continue this irrational behavior? It's because the emotion of hope overwhelms rationality. Chapter 3. Biblical Principles for Becoming Wealthy. So far, we've looked at the characteristics of people who struggle to accumulate money. Now, conversely, let's explore the principles of creating and maintaining wealth alongside biblical wisdom. First, revolution of mindset, the right perspective on money. The first step to becoming wealthy is changing how you think about money. Money itself is not the goal, but a tool to achieve goals. This aligns with biblical teachings. 1 Timothy 6:10 records, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." Notice that it's not money, but the love of money. That's the problem. Money itself is a neutral tool. What matters is the meaning we assign to it and how we use it. Successful, wealthy people have the identity that "I am someone who handles money well." This is not merely self-suggestion, but implies responsibility and ownership of finances. What exists in our minds eventually becomes our reality. Proverbs 23:7 says, "For as he thinks in his heart, so is he." Our inner attitude toward money eventually manifests as financial reality. Interestingly, many people have contradictory thoughts about money. They say, money is not important, yet stress when money is lacking. Or they think, rich people are greedy, yet want to be rich themselves. This cognitive dissonance acts as an unconscious barrier to creating wealth. 2. Forming an intimate relationship with money. The second principle for becoming wealthy is becoming friends with money. This means actively managing money through practices like keeping a budget, studying investments, and planning expenses. Jesus said in Luke 16:11, "If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches?" Here, unrighteous wealth refers to worldly money, and faithfulness means responsible management. In reality, many wealthy people accurately understand their financial status. They know how much they earn monthly, how much they spend, and where and how much their assets are invested. This clarity forms the foundation for wise financial decisions. The first step to improving your relationship with money is honesty. It's important to acknowledge your current financial state as it is and view it objectively without emotional judgment. In our society, talking about money tends to be somewhat taboo. This hinders forming a healthy relationship with money, like having a health problem but not consulting a doctor. Avoiding conversations about finances makes problem-solving difficult. Third, diversification of income pipelines. The third principle is diversifying income sources. Relying on a single source of income increases financial risk. Ecclesiastes 11:2 advises, "Give a portion to 7, or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth." This is ancient wisdom about diversifying investments. In modern society, there are various ways to generate income. First, earned income, which is the income received as salary or hourly wages. Second, business income, which is income through business operations. Third, investment income, which is returns from investments in stocks, bonds, real estate, etc. And finally, fourth, royalty income, which is continuous income generated from books, patents, content, etc. True financial freedom is possible when you create a structure where money comes in even when you don't work. This means increasing the proportion of investment income, which makes assets work for you beyond earned income, which directly exchanges time for money. Realistically, most people start with earned income. The important thing is to consistently invest part of this earned income in building assets, gradually increasing the proportion of investment income. One paradoxical fact here is that many high-income professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants, etc., actually struggle with this transition. Those accustomed to high hourly rates easily fall into a golden handcuff state, finding it difficult to allocate time to investments or side jobs with low initial returns. 4. Long-term thinking and the virtue of patience. The fourth principle is viewing wealth from a long-term perspective. True wealth is not created overnight. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Financial success, too, is like a marathon, not a sprint. The law of compound interest is the clearest example showing the power of time. Albert Einstein described compound interest as the most powerful force in the world. For example, with a 10% annual return on investment, 1 million won becomes about 2 million won, double the amount, after 7.2 years. However, after 25 years, it becomes about 10,830,000 won, about 10 times the amount. This is not just a simple mathematical law, but a principle that applies to all areas of life. Knowledge, relationships, and skills likewise grow exponentially through steady investment and time. Our society tempts us to seek instant gratification. Flashy success stories on social media and advertisements like "How to get rich in 31 days" ignore time, the most important element in wealth accumulation. But most true wealthy people have a philosophy of hurrying slowly. 5. The importance of value creation and relationships. The fifth and final principle is that wealth is ultimately the result of value creation and relationships. Proverbs 22:1 says, "A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches." This shows that true wealth goes beyond mere material accumulation. The key question is, how many people benefit through me? The essence of business is value exchange. The greater the value you provide, the greater the compensation. The common point among world-class wealthy people is that they solved problems for many people. Bill Gates made computer use easier, Steve Jobs redesigned technology to be human-centered, and Elon Musk opened new paths for sustainable energy and space exploration. Understanding and practicing the virtuous cycle where value provision builds trust, which ultimately generates profit, is important. In our society, the zero-sum game mindset often prevails. The idea that if someone becomes rich, someone else becomes poor. However, true wealth comes from growing the pie itself through value creation. This is the economic expression of Acts 20:35, which says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Chapter 4. Practical Strategies for Wealth. So far, we've examined the principles of wealth. Now, let's learn about concrete strategies to practice these principles. 1. Setting financial goals. It's difficult to build wealth without clear goals. Set specific goals for short term, 1 year, mid-term, 5 years, and long term, 10 plus years. Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Without financial vision, we easily lose our way and wander. Effective financial goals follow the SMART principle. S, specific, not just, "I'll save money," but specifically planning, "I'll save 50 million won in emergency funds within 3 years." M, measurable. It should be possible to track progress. A, achievable. It should be within a realistic, achievable range. R, relevant. It should align with your values and life goals. T, time-bound. Even if modification may be needed for the unknown future, there should always be a clear deadline at the starting point. A common mistake when setting goals is making them too vague or too ambitious. A specific goal like, "I'll generate 5 million won in monthly investment income," is more effective than a vague goal like, "I'll become rich." 2. Budget management and expense optimization. The basic principle of wealth is spending less than you earn. This is a simple but powerful principle. In Luke 14:28, Jesus said, "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it?" This emphasizes the importance of financial planning. Consider the 50-30-20 rule for effective budget management. 50%. Essential expenses like housing, food, transportation, medical care. 30%. Discretionary spending for leisure, hobbies, dining out. 20%. Savings and investments. This is just a starting point, requiring adjustment according to your situation. Particularly if you want to achieve financial independence quickly, increasing the proportion of savings and investments is important. The most important thing in expense optimization is value-based spending. Not saving on everything, but focusing on what gives you true value and boldly reducing what doesn't. Our society's consumerist culture constantly tempts us to possess more. However, true wealth often starts with less. As Henry David Thoreau said, "A person is rich in proportion to the things they can afford to let alone." Third, income increasing strategies. There is a limit to just reducing expenses. For true wealth, strategies to increase income are necessary. Proverbs 10:4 says, "A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich." Diligence and industriousness are the basis for income increase. Practical ways to increase income. First, enhance skills and knowledge. Develop expertise that can provide higher value in your field. This leads to promotions or salary increases. Second, develop side jobs. Create additional income sources beyond your main job. Freelancing using online platforms, selling digital products, creating content are possibilities. Third, start a business. In the long term, consider starting your own business. You don't need to start big from the beginning. A strategy of starting small, validating, and growing is effective. Fourth, develop investment income. Invest in stocks, bonds, real estate, etc., to make your assets work for you. Investment is the wisest way to utilize the power of time. What many people think of when considering income increase is working harder. However, true income increase comes from creating more value. Increasing value per hour is more effective than simply working more hours. In today's digital economy, there are many opportunities to utilize leverage. Digital products or content created once can be replicated and sold infinitely, and automated systems can create value 24 hours. Fourth, wise investment strategies. Investment is one of the most powerful tools for building wealth. However, many people think of investment as too complicated, or conversely, approach it too recklessly. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." In investment too, a diligent and systematic approach is more important than haste. Basic principles for beginner investors. First, diversify investments. The adage, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," is the foundation of investment. Diversify across various asset classes like stocks, bonds, real estate. Second, invest regularly. More important than market timing is regular investment. Utilize the dollar cost averaging strategy. Third, long-term perspective. Don't be swayed by short-term market fluctuations. Invest from a long-term perspective. The stock market tends to rise in the long term, despite short-term fluctuations. Fourth, utilize the power of compound interest. Maximize the compound effect by reinvesting dividends or interest. In investment, the greatest enemy is not external, but internal. Our emotions and behavioral biases determine investment performance. Successful investors focus on controlling their emotions rather than trying to predict the market. Our society is flooded with investment products or advice promising easy ways to make money. But in reality, most of these promises are fictitious, and true wealth is built through consistency and principles. As Warren Buffett said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." 5. Investing in financial knowledge and education. Finally, continuous financial education is essential for building wealth. Financial knowledge is an asset, and ignorance is a cost. Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." It's difficult to build wealth without financial knowledge. Practical methods for financial education. First, read financial books. Build knowledge through various books, from classic financial texts to modern investment books. Second, find mentors. Seek and learn from the advice of people who have already achieved financial success. Third, participate in communities. Join communities of people pursuing financial growth to share knowledge and experiences. Fourth, learn by doing. Start with small amounts to gain real investment experience. Sometimes, small failures become the most valuable lessons. A point to be cautious about in financial education is information overload. Rather than trying to absorb all information, it's important to deeply understand and practice verified principles. In modern society, countless financial advice pours out through social media or YouTube. However, not all advice is useful. Learn by selecting content that teaches fundamental principles and verified strategies, rather than content promising easy success while showcasing a flashy lifestyle. Chapter 5. The Psychology and Habits of the Wealthy. So far, we've examined the principles and strategies of wealth. Now, let's focus on the psychology and habits of wealthy people. 1. The psychology of abundance. Wealthy people view the world from a perspective of abundance rather than scarcity. This doesn't simply mean positive thinking, but a mindset focusing on opportunities and possibilities. Philippians 4:8 exhorts, "Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." This aligns with the psychology of abundance. The psychology of abundance views the world as a positive sum game, not a zero-sum game. That is, someone's success doesn't mean another's failure, but a belief that all can grow and prosper together. This psychology pursues cooperation based on abundance rather than competition based on scarcity. This leads to more creative solutions and greater value creation. Interestingly, the psychology of scarcity can actually lead to more consumption and waste. People feeling scarcity tend to consume now, but those with a psychology of abundance manage resources from a more long-term perspective. 2. Daily habits of the wealthy. Wealth comes from daily habits, not one-time actions. Small habits accumulate to create big results. Romans 12:2 exhorts, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." To become wealthy, you need changes not only in mindset, but also in everyday behavior patterns. Common habits of wealthy people. First, wake up early. Many successful wealthy people wake up early and start their day in a planned way. Second, continuous learning. They constantly pursue learning through reading, seminars, mentoring, etc. Third, networking. They form and maintain relationships with people from various fields. Fourth, health management. They invest in physical and mental health through exercise, meditation, healthy eating habits, etc. Fifth, goal setting and review. They regularly set goals and review progress. These habits don't form overnight. Contrary to the common belief of 21 days, research shows it takes an average of 66 days to form a new habit. Consistency and patience are needed. In modern society, constant notifications and temptations distract our concentration. Wealthy people excel at controlling these distractions and focusing on important tasks. Digital detox and securing deep work time are strategies for this. Third, attitude toward failure and risk. Wealthy people don't fear failure, but use it as an opportunity to learn. Also, rather than recklessly taking risks, they take calculated risks. 2 Corinthians 4:8-9 says, "We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed." This shows a spirit that doesn't succumb to difficulties. A healthy attitude toward failure includes: first, remember that failure is part of the process, not the result. Second, recognize that lessons learned from failure are seeds of success. Third, strive for active fluidity, fail small, learn fast, pivot quickly. The successful startup culture in Silicon Valley is based on the philosophy of fail fast. This doesn't mean aiming for failure itself, but learning quickly through failure and adjusting direction. In risk management too, wealthy people have a unique approach. They don't try to avoid all risks, but distinguish between manageable and unmanageable risks. They also thoroughly prepare before taking risks and establish contingency plans for worst-case scenarios. Interestingly, contrary to what many people think, true wealthy people often have conservative investment tendencies. They carefully manage wealth gained from one big success to avoid losing it through reckless gambling. It's no coincidence that Warren Buffett's first investment principle is don't lose money. 4. The value of relationships and networks. The importance of relationships and networks in wealth accumulation cannot be overstated. We find it difficult to achieve great success alone. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says, "Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up." Principles of successful networking. First, authenticity. Focus on building genuine relationships, not just exchanging business cards. Second, provide value. Think first about what value can I provide, rather than what can I get. Third, diversity. Form relationships not only with people in the same field, but also with people from diverse backgrounds and expertise. Fourth, persistence. Put effort into maintaining continuous relationships, not one-time meetings. Networks are sources of information, opportunities, and support. Many business opportunities and investment information flow through networks before reaching the open market. In today's digital age, the importance of online networking is also growing. Platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter provide channels to connect with experts worldwide. However, online relationships should also be based on authenticity and value exchange. In our society, there sometimes exists the myth that success is something you do alone. However, all great achievements in history are the results of cooperation and teamwork. Even the greatest inventors or entrepreneurs relied on teams and networks to realize their visions. Chapter 6: Stages of Wealth and Financial Freedom. Now, let's learn about the stages one goes through in the process of wealth accumulation and the ultimate goal of financial freedom. 1. The 5 stages of wealth. Wealth accumulation typically goes through the following stages. First stage, financial survival, the stage of covering basic living expenses. Second stage, financial stability, the stage where emergency funds are secured and basic debts are managed. Third stage, financial security, the stage where essential living expenses are covered by investment returns. Fourth stage, financial independence, the stage where the desired lifestyle can be maintained with investment returns. Fifth stage, financial abundance, the stage where you can contribute not only to yourself, but also to others. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." True wealth includes contributing to the next generation and society, not just for oneself. Many people aim for financial independence. This means gaining the freedom to choose work, beyond the state of having to work to maintain livelihood. The FIRE movement is one modern approach pursuing this goal. It aims to achieve financial independence much earlier than the typical retirement age through a high savings rate, frugal lifestyle, and wise investments. However, one important fact here is that financial independence doesn't necessarily mean not working. Rather, many people continue to work after financial independence. The difference is that now they work for meaning and fulfillment, not for money. 2. The essence of financial freedom. Financial freedom means more than simply having a lot of money. It means freedom of choice, freedom of time, and freedom to contribute. John 8:32 says, "And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Knowing financial truth and wisdom leads to financial freedom. 3 dimensions of financial freedom. First, freedom of choice. The freedom to choose jobs, residence, lifestyle, etc., without financial constraints. Second, freedom of time. The freedom to decide for yourself how to use your time. Third, freedom to contribute. The freedom to contribute your resources, time, talent, money, to meaningful causes. Financial freedom is realized when money becomes a tool, not the purpose of life. It's a state free from worry about money, able to focus on what is truly valuable. In modern society, there's often a tendency to confuse financial freedom with a luxurious lifestyle. However, true financial freedom is about inner peace and freedom of choice, not external ostentation. The most ironic point is that many people who achieve financial freedom actually choose a more frugal lifestyle. They realize that true freedom is needing less rather than having more. 3. The true purpose of wealth. Ultimately, what is the true purpose of wealth? Beyond simple accumulation, what meaning should wealth have? 1 Timothy 6:17-19 says, "As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life." True purposes of wealth. First, freedom and security. Freedom from financial anxiety and a sense of security about the future. Second, expanding possibilities. Expanding life's possibilities through education, experiences, opportunities, etc. Third, exercising influence. Supporting important values and causes and creating change. Fourth, expression of love. Supporting and caring for family and loved ones. Fifth, leaving a legacy. Making a positive impact on the next generation and the broader community. One paradox of wealth is that wealth solely for oneself often leads to emptiness. In contrast, wealth connected to a greater purpose brings deep satisfaction and meaning. It's no coincidence that many wealthy people eventually become interested in charitable activities or social enterprises. They realize that the true value of wealth lies in sharing, not possessing. The pledge by many modern wealthy people, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mackenzie Scott, etc., to return their wealth to society is an expression of this realization. They want to be remembered not simply as people who had more, but as people who contributed more. Chapter 7. Wealth from a Biblical Perspective. So far, we've examined the practical aspects of wealth. Now let's deeply examine how the Bible teaches about wealth and prosperity. 1. A balanced view of wealth in the Bible. The Bible presents a very balanced view of wealth. It doesn't say wealth itself is evil, but also emphasizes caution and warnings about wealth. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." This acknowledges that wealth can be a blessing from God. Conversely, in Matthew 19:24, Jesus said, "Again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." This warns that wealth can entail spiritual risks. This balanced perspective teaches us that it's not wealth itself that's the problem, but our attitude toward wealth and how we use it. The Bible also emphasizes the temporary nature of wealth. 1 Timothy 6:7 says, "For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world." This reminds us of the need to view this world's wealth from an eternal perspective. Interestingly, the Bible cautions against both extreme attitudes toward wealth. Proverbs 38:9 prays, "Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is needful for me, lest I be full and deny you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God." Second, stewardship, the true owner of wealth. From a biblical perspective, we are not owners, but stewards of wealth. Everything ultimately belongs to God, and we are beings entrusted with the responsibility to manage it. Psalm 24:1 declares, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein." This teaches that the ultimate ownership of all wealth and resources belongs to God. Core principles of stewardship. First, responsibility. We have the responsibility to wisely manage the resources entrusted to us. Second, generosity. What we have is also for sharing. Third, eternal perspective. The mindset of investing this world's wealth in eternal values. Stewardship frees us from obsession and anxiety about wealth. The recognition that everything belongs to God helps us not to be too attached to or afraid of wealth. This perspective also changes how we view our successes and failures. It prevents us from becoming proud when successful and despairing when failing. In the end, we learn the attitude of doing our duty as faithful stewards, but leaving the final results to God. In modern society, stewardship is being re-examined, not just as a religious concept, but as an important value for a sustainable economy and society. Concepts like environmental responsibility, ethical investment, and social enterprises can all be seen as secular expressions of this stewardship spirit. 3. Balance of work and rest. The rhythm of prosperity. The Bible highly values work while simultaneously emphasizing the importance of rest. True prosperity can be found in the balance between work and rest. Genesis 2:2-3 records, "And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation." This shows that the rhythm of work and rest is inherent in the order of creation. If even God rested after completing the work of creation, we too should respect this rhythm. In modern society, constant productivity and busyness are often considered virtuous. However, this culture of busyness often leads to burnout, health problems, and loss of meaning. The relationship between work and rest from a biblical perspective is as follows. First, the dignity of work. Work is not a punishment or curse, but an opportunity for creative expression and contribution. Second, the wisdom of rest. Rest is not a sign of weakness, but an act of wisdom and faith. Third, the importance of festivals. Regular times of celebration and thanksgiving form a healthy rhythm of life. Interestingly, recent studies support this biblical wisdom. It's been scientifically proven that creativity, productivity, and overall well-being all decrease without adequate rest and recovery. Wise, wealthy people know how to work smartly, beyond simply working hard. They manage their energy and health as investment assets for sustainable success. Chapter 8. Conclusion. Starting the journey of wealth. So far, we've examined the principles, strategies, and biblical perspectives of wealth. Now, compiling all this content, I'd like to offer some final advice to those of you starting the journey of wealth. 1. The journey of wealth is a marathon. Building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. Focus on sustainable development rather than quick success. Hebrews 12:1 exhorts, "Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Financial success also requires patience and consistency. The biggest mistake many people make when starting their financial journey is trying to achieve too much too quickly. This often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and giving up. Instead, an approach of celebrating small victories and progressing gradually is more effective. The law of compound interest shows that even small efforts can lead to big results over time, and accept in advance that there will be failures and frustrations along the journey. What's important is not failure itself, but how you get up and move forward after failure. 2. The true definition of success. Most important in the journey of wealth is how you define success. True success goes beyond simple numbers or material possessions. Mark 8:36 asks, "For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul?" This challenges us to consider a deeper meaning of success. Therefore, the elements of complete success can be defined as follows. First, financial stability, a state where material needs are met. Second, meaningful contribution, making a positive impact on the world with your talents and resources. Third, richness of relationships. Having deep and meaningful human relationships. Fourth, personal growth. Achieving continuous learning and development. Fifth, spiritual fulfillment. Experiencing a connection with transcendent values daily. Such multidimensional success brings much deeper satisfaction than simple wealth accumulation. What many wealthy people eventually realize is that the true measure of wealth is how meaningfully their life was lived, not the numbers in their bank accounts. 3. The courage to start today. The most important step in the journey of wealth is the very first step. Start with what you can do now, rather than waiting for perfect plans or conditions. James 4:14 says, "You do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes." Because the future is uncertain, we should focus on what we can do now. Practical ways to start small. First, create a budget. Start recording your income and expenses today. Second, build an emergency fund. Start saving regularly, even small amounts. Third, financial education. Start with one book, one podcast. Fourth, debt management plan. If you have debt, make a repayment plan. Fifth, income increase concept. Consider ways to generate additional income with your current talents. If you don't have any, find someone to help you. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. The journey to wealth is the same. It's better to start imperfectly and continue developing than to seek perfection and never start. 4. The role of faith. Finally, the role of faith in the journey of wealth should not be overlooked. Faith allows us to see the bigger picture and gives us the strength to persevere in difficult times. Hebrews 11:1 defines, "Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." For financial success too, faith is needed to believe in and act upon results not yet visible. Faith also helps us overcome fears and anxieties about money. In Matthew 6:25-26, Jesus said, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they?" This doesn't encourage an irresponsible attitude toward material needs, but teaches that we can manage finances more wisely through fundamental trust and peace. Ultimately, true wealth lies not in the numbers of money, but in how we live and the impact our lives have on others. As Robert Kiyosaki said, "It's not what's in your wallet that matters, but what's in your head." Closing remarks. Everyone, today we have examined the reasons why people who want to make money well struggle and the principles for becoming wealthy. Money is like a mirror reflecting our values and ways of life, not just simple paper or numbers. Remember that true wealth is not simply earning a lot of money, but the sum of thoughts, habits, responsibility, character, and strategy. And above all, remember that the biblical perspective on money is that we, as stewards, not owners, should wisely manage the resources entrusted to us and use them to bless others. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." I hope you entrust your financial journey to God and move forward one step at a time with His wisdom. I hope this time today becomes an important first step toward your financial future. Remember, every great journey begins with a single step. Thank you sincerely for staying with me until the end. If this content has been helpful, please subscribe to our channel and set up notifications so you won't miss more valuable content. Also, I would greatly appreciate it if you would share your valuable opinions and experiences in the comments. I'll see you again next time with a deeper and more beneficial topic. Thank you.